that memory section and everything. And usually you see people that you may have known in one form or fashion as fans. I mean, of course, we remember when Michael passed. We remember when Prince passed. We remember when folks like that passed. But, there was an artist that was among those names that was from our same area. She grew up around Littleton and things of that nature. So, I mean, a lot of people were very touched when Catrice Barnes lost her battle to cancer. But just seeing her face up there among those names was just very, very touching to me because I'm, like I said, just to see that woman that we all knew, and we knew her as being somebody very powerful and doing a lot of great work in the music community, having performed with such legends as Sting and Shaka Khan and just a number of other great legends, and to have to see her up there and just to know all that her mother is going through. Because as I mentioned on this show one time before, her mother, in a matter of not a long period of time, lost one of her sons, her husband, and her daughter. So right now it's just the mom and the other son, who is also a noted musician as well. So just to, our prayers and thoughts go out to that family, but just to see that face there. And like I said, I had not been that much in touch with her. I would occasionally, maybe drop a line here and there on Facebook or things of that nature. So we weren't as in touch as we might have been in the 80s and maybe even a little bit in the 90s, but still we did have some connection and did have some history. So just to see that kind of face of somebody that you knew just really touched me. And I think you probably knew her as well, Gary.
Yeah. And, man, it's amazing. I was just listening to you guys before you came back and break with me. And I want to applaud, you, Mark, for, I think this type of medium is missed today. I think everything is so canned and everything is so controversial and everything sometimes can be so political that, the true just rap, just talk about it, those meetings don't exist. So I applaud you and your colleagues for what you're doing. And, I had not been for your mother and the platform that was given to me as a young high school student, I never would have gotten into radio. Had I never gotten into radio, I wouldn't have gotten into theater. So I like to go back to the roots to where it all started. And, your mother and that family, man, was very instrumental in laying down a foundation so that I didn't have to prime tobacco, so I didn't have to pick cucumbers. It was another form of something for me to do to find out what was already inside of me. And so, man, it's the journey I've been on in writing theater. We did start off with gospel plays, but we've kind of morphed into now what we call our health portfolio. And, it is my belief that everyone learns differently. And we have been, over the last, we've been doing plays for close to 30 years, but over the last 10 years, we really found our niche in doing these productions based on real-life situations that deal with raising awareness, trying to close the health disparities gap in communities of color, doing plays on Alzheimer's and diabetes and prostate cancer, congestive heart failure, and that nature. And we have, God has really, truly blessed us, to have sponsors like AARP, the Alzheimer's Association, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association. We're working with pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Bayer. Who would have ever thought that a little boy from Warren County would be in that realm of doing things? And, we have really been blessed to be able to do that. And it's just amazing, plays have literally taken me around the world, Mark. And it's not enough, as I speak to you now, my grandmother died from Alzheimer's disease, and my mother has been diagnosed with it. So there is still work to be done in trying to make sure that we as African Americans know all that we need to know about trying to make our health better. And one way that we learn is through entertainment. And so, corporate America can spend millions of dollars on research and spend millions of dollars on brochures and education, but if they don't meet us where we are, we always get left out. Something as simple as, every drug that's on the shelf in Walmart went through a clinical trial, and I would hate for them to come up with a cure for Alzheimer's or cure for cancer, and it doesn't work in us African Americans, because we didn't participate in clinical trials. And as soon as you say clinical trials, people talk about Tuskegee. So we're in development. We're coming up with a project that's going to talk about why we need to be involved in clinical trials. So the work that I'm doing, man, I don't consider it work. It's just a lifestyle. I'll do this till I can't breathe anymore. But man, I'm just just honored just to be talking to you again. I go back to memories of I used to close the station up and would be on the air until midnight, and that was my introduction to jazz, into pure jazz. So, I mean, I'll never forget where I come from, man. And it's just amazing to be kind of going back in memories. And we're talking. The world is talking about Kobe Bryant right now, and to me, Kobe was a fan, but at the end of the day, what was even more appealing to people is like how much of a father he was, how much he was trying to inspire other people. And man, that's what I want to do. Can anything good come out of Warren County? Yes, it can. And I think you're talking to two people right now, me and you. I would consider us, pretty good people trying to leave our mark.
Definitely trying to leave our mark for Warren County and things of that nature. And that's one of the things, even talking about Kobe, that they talked about was that apparently, and I think that's kind of what Obama was referring to, was that he was saying that he would have been just as great in the, as he called it, the next act or the second act as he had been in that first act, which was his basketball act, because a lot of what he was doing was what you were talking about doing. I mean, he was also I don't know if Dean was aware of this, but I mean, it's definitely come out in the news and everything. He had his own podcast, and he had a podcast where he was talking about trying to do some writing and talking about trying to deal with some issues and things, not just things that he had been creating while he was on the basketball court, because apparently he was an avid writer while he was, between games and things of that nature. So he had already had some ideas of some storylines and some things that he was working on. Of course, everybody knows about his letters to basketball, Dear Basketball, that he wrote that got some notices among the award shows and things of that nature. But apparently he had a lot of other things on the tap and everything like that. I'm hoping that the folks that are running his production company, I mean, of course, they've got to get through the period of sadness and mourning and things of that nature. But I do hope that they did keep some of those records and that we will eventually get to see some of those stories that he was working on come to some sort of life, because I know that a lot of that stuff is still out there, and hopefully it's in some form of fashion that they can turn it into kind of the vision of what he had wanted it to be, even if it won't be quite what he wanted because he's not the one doing it. But I do know that a lot of times you're talking to your colleagues and things of that nature, so I'm hoping that they're able to do that. And you were talking about the fact of, well, a couple of things you mentioned. One is the whole thing of using the theater as a form of talking about issues. I don't know if you're aware of this, but North Carolina Central has been doing this for a few years as well. I don't know if they got the idea from you or if they got the idea from others that were doing like-minded things, but I do know that like Howard Kraft and some other friends of mine that are playwrights, I think it's once a year, maybe twice a year, they've done different things over there at Central's campus around different issues. I mean, I know that they've touched on issues like I think that they might have touched on the prostate issue, prostate cancer. I'm pretty sure that they've touched on other forms of cancer. I'm pretty sure they touched on breast cancer and things of that nature. But it's just different things that they've written about, and they're actually working, I think, on the one for 2020. So you're right. A lot of times we have to use the means of theater or music or whatever to get the causes out there. And there are so many times that we are afraid. We talked about it on this show. We had Lippy Roy, who is a medical professional, on and has some connections to Duke. And even though she's Asian American, she was talking about the fact that a lot of minorities do have those kind of fears because of Tuskegee. They have fears of the clinical trials, and a lot of times we just have fears of just going to regular doctors and don't even talk about like a mental doctor or a psychiatrist, because a lot of times we just feel like they don't have an understanding of where we're coming from and have a lot of stereotypes. So it sounds like a lot of your plays are trying to tackle these stereotypes and get people to understand that these doctors are doing it for the good of their health and not trying to destroy them or do some of these things that might have harmed us in the past.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I call our series of things is a health portfolio. You can follow us on gdavisproductions.net. That's gdavisproductions with an S.net, and you can see all the work that we're doing, all the different plays that we have. That's kind of the hub of all of our websites. Each particular play that we have has its own website, but that's the hub. I know we're going to be in your area March the 21st. We're kicking off our prostate cancer play. It'll be our third year on tour, and we're kicking it off at Carolina Theater March the 21st. So we're looking to come into your area with that. Forget Me Not Man has been touring the country for 13 consecutive years. Mama's Girls, my play that dealt with caregiving, toured for 8 consecutive years. Part 2 of Mama's Girls went 3 years on with, I call it Sugar and Sweet, dealing with how in our community, Mama didn't say she had diabetes, she said she had sugar. So, I mean, if you're going to tackle these health issues, you're going to have to meet people where they are and use the language they're familiar hearing so that we can push them towards help and so they can have a better quality of life.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. And you've definitely been doing that for a number of years. I'm hoping that you'll also make it at some point back to the Hayti Heritage Center, because, that's one of my homes as well. But I am on the board of the Carolina Theater, so definitely glad that you're coming to the Carolina Theater, because I'm actually scheduled to have a board meeting tomorrow. So I'll have to mention to them that you are looking forward to that, because I've been on the board now for a few years over there at the Carolina Theater, and definitely trying to do some great work in that realm and in that particular historical theater as well. So we have so many great historical theaters here in this area. That's one of the things that I think people are not aware about, and I'm sure that you've found this out as you've traveled around the country and everything, and definitely around the state here in North Carolina. Is we have a tremendous amount of great little theaters that people don't know about, because one of the projects that I've been involved in for going on 6 years is the Road to the Apollo, where we run the show just like me and Captain Newborn, one of my business partners, run it just like the Apollo that you would see in New York, and then the winners get to actually go to the real Apollo Theater and get to jump the line. So they get to jump the line, and we've got something like 90% success rate. So most of our people that have gone and auditioned have actually hit the stage there in that world-famous Apollo Theater. But the last 2 or 3 years, we've actually traveled to different theaters around North Carolina. Like we went to the Kirby, we went to McGregor in Henderson, we've been to little theaters in Fayetteville, and sometimes you're just amazed at some of these theaters. Sally B. Howard over there just outside of, I believe that's in Roanoke Rapids or Weldon area, but there's these little small theaters that you have no idea exist until you actually start traveling around and seeing them. But they produce some great local works, and they also do a good job of trying to bring in national and international artists as well when they can afford them according to their budgets and things of that nature. But just these little jewels, and it's not just here. Dean, my partner in crime, is up there in New Jersey, and they've got jewels in all parts of Jersey and New York and Delaware that a lot of times folks don't think about. So I think that that's one of the things I always try to encourage.
Well, we're going to have to definitely keep in touch about that as I travel, because all of our productions, man, are free. We don't charge. That's the beauty of what we do. I get compared to Tyler all the time, and one of the things that and Tyler and I, we converse and work together on certain things, but the difference between Tyler and I is that you'll see a Tyler Perry play, and you'll go home, you and your girlfriends, the girls that get together, have wine, and watch Tyler Perry play, and that's fine. You go see a G. Davis production, you go home, you're going to have a serious conversation with, longevity. What do I need to do about the next phase of life? And so the difference between us is, we're on two different total planes. I'm entertaining you, but I'm more about educating you than I am entertaining you. But I use entertainment as a way to draw you in, so that, you need to find out about what's going on and with you, with your family, and so that you know where the connection, where the resources are. So, man, I'm amazed that and blessed that, you connect with all these theaters. All the theaters you name, smaller. I think I've played at one time or another. We do McGregor Hall once a year. We do try to get back to Roanoke Rapids when we can. So, man, I'm just looking forward, keeping the connections open this time around. It don't take so long for us to kind of talk.
Yeah, definitely. Those have to put those long gaps of time that we do sometimes. But we'll definitely try to keep it more tight and not just have these long gaps of times where we're apart from each other. Tell us a little bit about some of the artists that you've worked with, because, like I said, you've had the tremendous pleasure of working with some amazing names, folks like Regina Bell, Freddie Jackson, Gerald Alston, as well as Sister Cantaloupe. So just tell us a little bit about how those came about, whether they searched you out or whether you searched them out, or how those relationships were birthed.
Well, thanks to you and your mom and giving me that foundation radio. When I went on, before I got into theater full time, Mark, I was the program director for some urban stations in Fayetteville, and being a program director and promotion director, then you're playing hand in hand with the record companies. And so a lot of those artists that I worked with over the years was through relationships that I built in radio. And so it was easy to get the Freddie Jackson and the Gerald Lawson from the Manhattans and the Tony Terrys and the Vivica Foxes and all of those, because of connections that I had in radio. But when I started doing this, the play, these health series for real, I began to realize that if I'm going to help someone, why should I charge them to get the services? And so, that's when, about 10 years ago, I decided, to focus the plays that I was going to do on trying to raise the awareness in my community, so that we could get the services that we need. And so that's when I began to, I worked with Deborah Tyler Horton when she was at ARP in Raleigh. Now she's in Georgia. She's a big mentor of mine. And when I told her about my vision to do a play on about 5 sisters trying to take care of their mother from 5 different cities. And we built that around ARP's health initiative called Prepare to Care. And so when ARP paid for that tour, the doors opened up. Before I knew it, all these agencies were calling me about, do you have anything on diabetes? Do you have anything on Alzheimer's?